Episode 10.
Episode 10. Hey,
Repeat
that's
that,
an even
please.
number. Black Kings Podcast, episode 10.
Episode 10.
Everybody tuning in. We appreciate everybody tuning in today on this Friday afternoon or night. First thing we gonna jump into today is my man Sharon Cutter Smooth, EP Digital.
What up?
Topics.
Good evening.
Pretty much is the Republican Party. I mean, what is it? The history of the Black Republican versus the Black Democrat. I think this is interesting. Let's see what you got. Everybody, we appreciate y'all tuning in.
All right, so we're
What
kind
you
of just
got?
going to jump into it. Let people fill in a little bit. Y'all ever wonder, ask the questions, why are we voting Democrat, Republican? You ever crossed your mind? Like, why?
I do because I've done my research, so of course I already have
So
these
you already know all of
questions.
this is what you're saying, huh?
I don't know
All right,
all
let's
of
see.
it, but I know enough of it.
I think most of us vote Democrat because that's what our parents did.
That is true. That is true, right? So let's look at the history. Like, how far does this thing even go back, right? So, looking at it, a little bit research. Let's start off with what is the Democratic Party? What does that even mean? What is it the basis of the Democratic Party, right? So, started by Andrew Jackson. Y'all know him? All right, 1828. Started by Andrew Jackson. Now, that's the Democratic Party. It is the oldest living party, right? Jackson, he sought out to advance the rights of the common man. Now, I'm describing the basic premises of...
Let them know which common man. Though.
Yeah,
Not our
exactly.
common man.
Well,
Not the black common man.
That's what I'm saying. In 1828, it's pretty much known the common man is the white man.
All right.
And they are,
Sure they know.
and it was supposed to be against the corrupt aristocracy. A lot of aristocrats were back then, right? Lifelong politicians, people that never really worked, but wanted to rule over all of the workers. So this party is supposed to be against that. Sorry.
So it's supposed to be against the elite.
The elite, correct. So it's for the common man. This is the Democrat. Now, they were also against abolition, meaning they wanted some slaves, for real. And, this is the same group, and it was... Oh, you want to hold it? I'm going to switch the camera back and forth since our cameraman is out. All right? So, this is the same group, pretty much the same man, really. Andrew Jackson, he's the one that removed the Native Americans. So you're talking about the Democrats, all for slavery, and nobody else on these lands but them. Got out the Native Americans, big old deportation of Mexicans back to Mexico. That is Andrew Jackson. This is the Democratic early party, right? Now, it also is majority of the Confederate states, right? So whenever you say Democrat in early times, you got to put them in the same pot because they are the same group as the Confederacy, right? Now, they were listed as the rebels, right? Because really they lost the war, right? And because they lost the war, I'm talking Civil War, during that time, all of their civil and voting rights were suspended during the Reconstruction era. So you got the dominating party, right? Democrats. It's pretty much the Democrats versus, I think it's the Whig parties.
Yeah, we have the Whigs.
Right? So the Whigs is pretty much aristocracy.
Yeah.
Right? Those are them. So the Democrats, they seem to be a very good party back then. Of course, they were still, even back then, they were well for. This is for the common man, for society, what have you. This is seems like a pretty good group to go after. All right, during these times, we still slavery. Slavery ain't ended until 1865. So still, at the beginning of those times, still got a few more years before free, right? So it was the Confederate Army, right? Of course, against the what do you call it? The Union, and they lost. Of course, we all know that. All their civil rights suspended during the Reconstruction era. So during that time, you got a lot of common men wanting to switch parties. This is where kind of the beginnings of the common white man switching over to the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Right, and that's
So when it was Whigs and Democrats, what were the Republicans?
Republicans haven't come yet. They came during pretty much the Civil War.
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln is the first Republican. That's why it's the Lincoln Party.
Black Democrats versus Black Republicans. How did it all get started? Somebody just asked me what the topic was.
All right. So he started out with the Democrats, started by Andrew Jackson, and they pretty much reigned supreme during the 1800s, right, all the way until their loss to Lincoln. Now, let's see.
And the loss to Lincoln was, just to let everybody know, the Republican Party was the Emancipation Proclamation when
Correct.
we came up with all this stuff like that.
Correct. So let's go ahead and dive into the Republican Party. Now, what are they about? Well, it says, the basic is liberty and the unalienable individual rights. So essentially, they're kind of the stuff that the common man was going for, but they added a little clause, because both, if you didn't know, that a Republican is a Republican, but it's also the real name of the Democrat Party is the Democratic Republican Party. They're both Republican parties.
Around this time of the 1800s, or like black people really voting in mass? How many black people are voting actually around this time?
During this
This time,
time,
nobody,
up
right?
until 1965, right? Prior,
About to say, ain't nobody.
no.
Yeah.
Prior to the Emancipation Proclamation, right, which is all the slaves are free and they have the right to vote in the states that allowed blacks to vote.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Some of the northern states, like
And this,
of course,
at
the
this time, they
colonies.
counted as 3/5 as a person.
I'm
or
not
are they getting
sure.
full vote?
They're getting a full vote.
That
at that
was
time.
after.
Yeah.
After the
So the
No.
1800s and 1900s, they got the full vote. But it wasn't
Before.
until 1965, in which, of course, the Civil Rights Act, in which everybody can vote, every state, no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? So, but, a little bit of people in certain places voted prior to 1965. Right? So we're talking about early.
You have to be a wealthy black man, right? At this time.
You got to be very savvy and intelligent, meaning
They
that
came
there's
up with
free
all
men.
type of, they came up with all type of voting rules and stuff at
Correct.
that point in time. Literacy tests.
No, I'm
Correct.
saying because at that time, there were some where they reported, or supposedly there were free black people with slaves.
Yes.
So was it around that time? So the black people at that time that was wealthy,
That don't mean they voted.
They did. Landowners voted. It's just,
yeah, because you
let's
had to
say more
own land, right?
the northern states, New York, Massachusetts, Maine, and all the Pennsylvania. Like, free blacks.
Yeah,
They voted.
that own land.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Not even you didn't even have to own land. Like you were
You just had to be free.
a real citizen.
Okay.
Right? You could go to have a labor job and you
But I
still could
wonder
vote.
how many people actually voted. Because I know they had white people sitting up, especially like Mississippi and stuff. They had people sitting at the voting and making sure black people didn't
I
vote.
put it like
But
this.
see, I
I
think,
feel like when you ask that number, I can dive into it because, looking at the Democratic and the Republican Party,
Right.
the switching back and forth is for the black vote. So the black vote is actually something pretty
So-
big
so
that
what is
drives
the-
the presidency.
I would ask this. So what's the main reason why black people start voting Democratic or white people start voting Republican?
Okay, so right at the beginning of freedom, let's say even the free blacks, what have you, they could have voted, and it's usually they vote either way. A lot of times, in the North, there's still the Whig Party, there's a Carpetbagger Party, different parties, so they voted towards their own best interest. There was no real party, right? That they are dominant party towards free blacks, what have you, or even any area over there, right? But once slaves were free after 1965, of course, who freed them? Lincoln, which is the Republican Party. So 1965 up until about 1930s, blacks is by and large Republican. Chasing a party that freed us and, looking at going in a very good direction for society at the time. Of course, we know Lincoln was assassinated. And right from the get-go,
Same
things started to sway in a different direction. So Republican Party was a little bit for black folk, a little bit for more freedom and equality amongst all.
yeah, because I also read that in the earlier times, the black people voted Republican, right? When it came out.
Correct. So
But I would
that's
say,
because
what's that
Lincoln free.
main reason why people switch though? I mean, I have my own theory.
Okay, so once they switch, the switch doesn't happen until around 1928. All right, the early 1900s, and this is Reconstruction era, right? This is because blacks are by and large Republican, but presidency after presidency after presidency, you see the implementation of different rules and laws to disenfranchise pretty much every other group except white, i.e.
sure.
they're building white supremacy with the Republican Party, which is supposed to be equal for all at the beginning. So during that time, blacks are coming out Republican, but they're witnessing all of this. and they're trying to sway in a different direction. During this time is black leaders are Booker T. Washington, in which
W.E. Du Bois.
correct, Booker T is Republican, full-on Republican. He is, I can't remember the president.
Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow, I think it was Woodrow Wilson. It might be a different one.
I'm probably wrong. I'm trying to think. I was just reading something up on that. That's what I was.
Correct.
Can't remember if it's him or not.
So he's full-on Republican. Remember, he was an ex-slave, freed during his childhood, right? So he grows up, become prominent, of course, but he is now a black leader, right? So he's been through the gauntlet, and he can advise everybody on the right moves to make. Right? This is Booker T. Washington, but he comes up with the Atlanta Compromise. Y'all heard about that? Read about it?
No, I didn't read about
All right.
that.
So during all of the Reconstruction era, we got Jim Crow coming out and everything. You see the Republican Party going in a slight different direction, and Booker T. Washington comes up with a good, I guess, plan or theory on how blacks could succeed in America.
Is white supremacy is that pretty much the reason why the Republican Party switched or people start voting more Republican? I'm sure they had to give the white public some type of reason, I feel like, to want to start voting Republican. Like, what's that reason that they just thought, like, hey, it wasn't just us voting Democrat, but it had to be a big switch of white people voting Republican.
Correct. Exactly. So, looking back at it, the Civil War, Democrats had already got their civil rights taken away. So, you already see a gradual switch from Democrat to Republican there, right? That's where we're already starting to, support different democratic methods, because Democrats, that's the racial party, right? So, Republicans are starting to go towards in that direction. You'll see it in the various presidencies between right after Lincoln all the way up. Even though the Republican Party stayed in power, Democrats probably had like one presidency during the time, but it is pretty much white supremacy.
Right.
You're supporting the people that freed you, and now these people are changing more towards changing
their goal, changing their direction.
Correct. And so you come along with two black leaders, prominent, very, very successful, very wealthy, right? Booker T. Washington comes up with the Atlanta Compromise, in which was a thing, I guess a deal or some agreement with him and the president at the time, I can't remember, I think it was Woodrow Wilson, of how the black people could survive in America. And it was pretty much he was pushing for support of bottom up, like starting with your education for vocational. He wanted more industrial teaching programs, and black folks would benefit more from that than W.B. Du Bois' theory of, hey, start from the top, the elites. Hey, go become a lawyer, become a politician, because you need those votes, the electoral votes. That's where the power is at. Right?
Did they work?
Well,
Grover Cleveland was the president.
Grover, okay, all right.
Knew it was somebody off book.
Yeah, right. So it's, Booker T. Washington, like, focus on you rather than comparing yourself to an average white man or elite white man. Yeah, it's not going to be equal, but it's better than what you had before. And once you do that and you keep up with it,
I think that's
it's going to be good. It is, and that's what W.B. Du Bois was talking about. Was that he's being submissive to white supremacy,
right?
And that's like going to take forever, a gradual, I guess, acceptance of the black man, and therein lies the beginning of the divide of the black people, right from the leadership. So at that point, they're going back and forth. W.E.B. Du Bois, we just call him Du Bois.
When can you tell me?
He starts preaching and telling black folk, hey, don't leave the Republican Party. Can't really go to the Democratic Party because we're looking for somebody, because this is a period like, all right, we know the Republican Party is not for us. They're going in a different direction. Now they don't have a party. Is vote for your best interest. Whatever candidate, no matter what party, vote for them. That's Du Bois is his solution for all of that. But still, educate
right.
to the highest level. And once the highest elites, black elites, is educated on the same level as white elites, that is the equality that we're looking for. And that's where the power in lies. And then it'll trickle down to your regular day-to-day
Trickle
labor.
down effect. This sounds like the tax plan that Trump and them just passed.
No,
But,
because
I mean, I would ask this: when did the Republican Party switch to like that conservative type of views? Like, cause you know, then they was for everybody. When did they switch to conservative? Like, you know, when did they switch to being the conservative party of conservative views rather than what we have today of the Republican Party? Because you just told us a good breakdown on why black people start swapping to the other side. So when did they officially, do you know when did they officially change their thing?
1928.
1928. When they got conservative.
We got Herbert Hoover, who is a Republican. Y'all know? Remember?
Hoover, the FBI. They created the FBI.
Probably. Let me see. You say Herbert Hoover.
Herbert Hoover.
I think he created the FBI. If I'm not mistaken.
I think so. But either way,
he wanted an agency that didn't have to answer to nobody, that went through their own funding. I didn't know that FBI. I'm sorry to get off topic. I didn't know that the FBI is funded like they have. I would say stocks in companies. Like they can be self-sufficient if the government didn't give them no funding. I think that that's scary. Well, them boys could function. Them boys got stocks and companies. They don't need nobody.
He was the president during the Great Depression.
Correct. He's the president that caused the Great Depression.
So
this is, and he's a Republican. Remember, this is the black folks' party, and it slowly transitioned over to the white supremacy side because he starts right from his campaign. He had his campaign style, kind of similar to what you have today.
Right.
Of he wanted to unite the white folks of the Republican Party. Because remember, the Republican defeated the Democrats or the what do you call them? The Confederacy, right? So he's looking to unite the South. This is he's a northern Republican.
I would say this just so some people know. I went and I looked up the definition of conservative. So people know what is the conservative views. What are these Republican? What is it that they believe?
Yeah.
It generally believes in impersonal responsibilities, limited government, free markets, individual liberties, traditional American values, and strong national defense. Oh, we know what that's going towards. Also believe in the role of government should be provided to the people of freedom necessary to pursue their own goals. One thing I think that stuck out to me more than anything is the limited of government and free markets. Don't get me wrong, and self-responsibility. But I think that that's kind of funny because my theory of the reason why a lot of people, why it switched from Republican to Democrat, if you go back and look at the stat, a lot of people start switching. Like, you go look at after the Great Depression and all that stuff, like around the 1960s, social programs start to be unfavorable because guess what? They already had everything that they needed. Correct. So guess what? At this point in time, like, nah, we don't like that. You supposed to be looking out for your own.
Exactly.
So we don't need no welfare, no social programs no more.
Exactly.
When it would have benefited black people the most.
Even though they got it to build their own.
Exactly. They gave them land grants, gave away land, gave away millions. But when it came to doing the same in opposition, once they had theirs, they were like, all right, we need to cut this out.
And that would be the divide.
We got ours. So
and that would be the divide. And it all happened during that time with Herbert Hoover. Because he's the one that started, I guess, the beginnings of those, making sure white people was all right. Yeah. Taking care of everybody. And kind of did too much.
That's when our black identity extremists start coming into play.
So, this is when blacks start to say, you know what, this probably ain't the party for us. So what is the Democratic Party looking like, right? This is W.B. Du Bois. Not really his party, but he's kind of got more people on that side. But his thing was, still, don't vote for either side. You must fight and never settle for less than equal. Everybody who is for that right there is who he was going after. All right? So who comes after Herbert Hoover but FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt? And he's Democratic. During that year, everybody voted Democrat. Because you got the Great Depression, and here he comes with the New Deal.
All right.
So
this is opposition party.
Yeah, right? So, with the New Deal, everybody's supposed to, there's a little bit of equality, what have you. But there's not really, I'm getting my dots confused. Let me get it. So blacks at that time, taken after W.B. Du Bois, his book, The Souls of Black Folk, in which he's looking at either side not offering. So even when they came up with the New Deal, he was still pointing out, like, hey, they're still not on your side. You're still not getting anything from them. So you're still without a party.
Sure.
Right? But, there's still, even though the Republican Party was switching, the Democratic Party decided to, you know what? They're going to start opening up some positions, allowing some blacks to hold some power. Which is what W.B. Du Bois is going for. Hey, you need some political power, some people in office here and there, black delegates, black delegations somewhere. So that's what would be, therein lies that mass movement from Republicans. Hey, there's the Republican side shutting down, kicking you out, and the Democratic side said, hey, you know what? We're opening up doors. We're making changes. We got a new deal. We got something for y'all. There's a mass movement from there to that side. And this happens right there, right after the Great Depression. So what happens after that is pretty much they keep it up. There's of course, it was the racist party, but since the Republican Party became racist, all the racists that were in the Democratic Party, well, they go to the Republican Party.
Right.
And it's a big switch, all pretty much off of, might as well say, white supremacy or racism, right? Because essentially when you get to the very crux of a democratic republic and Republican, they're basically the same thing. There's some civil rights aspects of it that may change between the two, but we know we're all people. We all, especially it was all for the common man, meaning each person gets their vote. Nobody wants to be oppressed by an elite, which is why I'm so confused that the Republicans would want to kick out, let's say, the Brits before for being oppressive, then still oppress other people. Right?
For sure.
So, all the way from 1934 after the Great Depression, black people by and large are Democrat now. It continues. You get the civil rights movement. I forget the president at that time, but they signed in the Civil Rights Act. You got JFK.
Civil rights movement?
Yeah. You got JFK, which was during, but not the Civil Rights Act.
This is Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah, Lyndon B. Johnson, Democrat, right? So this is where...
Don't quit me. Don't think I know my history.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is where,
Coach Miller, that's for you.
Year after year, presidency after presidency, especially in the Democratic Party, black folks are gaining political power, are gaining a whole lot of success, right? And up until now, blacks are still going more towards the Democratic side and still seeing success there. Now, Republican side, I'm still confused on, well, why? Because they're still trying to keep up with the tradition of what it was originally,
LBJ.
but it's no longer that.
I'm cold. What reason do black people these days to be a Republican? What benefits does it offer you? I don't understand. Like, what reason?
My opinion, I feel like Republican now benefits most of the wealthy.
Just money.
Yeah, it really don't have anything to do with your race. Most of the people that got a lot of money, they feel like the president is going to work to make sure they keep their
Republican
money.
side.
Yeah, no matter what color you are,
Gotcha.
So you in that tax bracket, like I said, it's just my opinion.
No, I agree.
Right
now, as far as it, because what other reason would they have? They're not voting for black social issues, but you got to remember the black people that's Republicans not going through these social issues.
Yeah.
So, and probably the only people that's in jeopardy of going through it is probably their kids, and I don't know how concerned they would be of that.
Yeah, right.
It's hard, especially now because a lot of the issues have become mixed in and conflated, what have you. Because generally, free markets over markets, people may change on that. Like, there's a lot of, what do you call it, conservative and liberal Republicans, and there's conservative and liberal Democrats.
Yeah.
And that's where you see, like, a lot of them have the same ideas, but they're just on the other side of the aisle. But for what reason besides cronyism, right? These, I feel like these are my people, that my team over here. Better to win with these guys over here. This is my community or my environment. So you'll see these different pockets of the different political parties.
So I would ask this. So
wherever
if,
you grew up at, like you said, your parents, like
Yeah.
still existing in a Republican community,
Right.
well, you're most likely going to be Republican.
Yeah.
And have whatever argument that you could come up with
Right.
to support that, even though it may be a little bit incorrect on some issues.
then my question would be, what reasons or what is the disconnect between Black Democrats and white Democrats? Like, what is the disconnect? What are we getting wrong? Because obviously we're not getting our issues pushed through. Is it because they really don't believe in our issues?
No, but
You
there's
know?
nothing wrong with the, you say white Democrats and
Yeah,
black
I'm saying because
Democrats.
obviously they're still not voting
Everybody's
for
on
the
the
issues
same-
that we want them to vote for.
It's too much infighting and too much, I guess, ego on who I want to be in control or in power. Because a lot of people, they got a lot of the same ideas. It's not that you'll lose with any of them.
Right.
It's just I would rather that guy than
Than
that
that
guy.
But I'm not talking about the control part. I'm talking more of the issues part. No matter who gets in there, what are the reasons? Even they get in there, we're still not getting our issues done. So obviously they don't agree. Even our white Democrats
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
agree with our
That's
issues.
what
So
I
what
mean.
issues
When
are
you say-
we not
No,
tackling?
because even black Democrats against another black Democrat is still going along. See what I'm saying? It's like even,
Right. That's what I'm
like,
saying.
I
We're
feel
not
like
getting our
what you
issues
say are
taken. So
issues.
what's
What
the
do you mean?
disconnect?
What issues? What issues?
I mean,
what?
anything
Like
for
what?
social justice change, anything that constitutes with black people,
'Cause
and
I've
it's
seen-
not getting done.
Because I've seen a
Why?
lot of, even on the Democrat side,
Right.
black Democrats still being against some things
For
that
sure.
would be good for
Oh,
us.
we know we're not gonna
And
get
vice
all the
versa.
we know we're not gonna get all the black people. We know it's still some crony,
Right. So,
you
and
know.
that's the problem
but,
right
but
there.
my
It's
saying
nothing
is,
about
what
the-
about
the
the
whites.
white ones that agree or so-called agree? Why? Like, what's the disconnect there? Because even if it's only a couple black ones. Even in Houston, if you look at the state and whatever the representatives that they have in Congress, probably like 4 black people out of the whole state of Texas.
Correct.
So my thing is, the rest of them still have to be elected and somehow, you know, I don't know if they're all in black or white districts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure some still are in black districts.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things why we still not getting our issues taken care of? So they must not agree on some of the social justice change that we want to see. So I don't understand why we still agree with them at all. Like you're saying, we shouldn't be with no party. We should be independent altogether and just voting our issues like back in the past. Because it's
Well,
been
that's
so
pretty-
many years
that's
now,
pretty
we're
much what
still
we
not
have
giving.
now.
Right.
It's like, yeah, we may, what I've seen, especially in the past, amongst friends, what have you, that, yeah, I may represent this party, but when I go to vote, I'm voting all different types of stuff. Independent, Republican, Democratic, and who knows who has a collective vote in the end, but it's all over the place.
And see, most of the black people go in, they just vote Democrat all the way through, rather than, you know, a white Democrat may actually go in, they're a Democrat, but they picking Republic for this or Democrat
Correct.
for this, and
Correct.
like how you saying, they might not agree with every single thing that we need to change for
Right,
us,
right.
but they going in there and selecting and not selecting what they don't agree with.
Well, I'm gonna put it like this: just because you're a Democrat don't mean you get my vote. I would
Yeah.
go in there and vote for
You
nobody
know what I'm saying?
before I
That's
vote for
what
you.
that's what most of us do, because we just
And that's
real
stupid.
talk.
I
No,
find
it
that
ain't.
to be, you know,
Because you think about it, the Democrat that's gonna get in is gonna get in.
in that case, you might as well take the Garveyism approach and
What's that?
leave. Because with that, you ain't never going to get
I'm
no
voting for the
blood on
ones I know. What I'm not gonna do is put a black Democrat or white Democrat in the seat, or say I voted for them,
Just
and I
because.
don't. Yeah, just because they in that Democratic bucket, I don't agree with that either.
Yeah.
But I'd rather make an informed decision, and I'd rather not vote for nobody at all.
I believe you would have me and
I
possibly
mean, I still go vote, but I pick and choose.
yeah.
whenever you are a Democrat and you vote all Democrat, what have you, whether one of them may not, they say vote for a black guy
Yeah.
just because he's Democrat and you're a Democrat, right? And he may not do a good.
Oh, he
like,
black, I
you
mean,
have-
but if they got a white name, I have to
you would have
Oh.
more influential power on him being in the same party, possibly the same community.
We ain't got
You can
no
get to
influential
him.
power over them, and we ain't getting to them.
Well, you're
we ain't
supposed
got
to.
to them for years. Supposed to is
Well.
a thing of the past. We can stop talking about them things that we supposed to do as we supposed, but we
Listen.
ain't, and we know we not, and we ain't gonna get to them because we never have.
No, but I.
So in order we not putting the person that we want there in the beginning, you might as well almost forget it unless
Yeah.
we can put a lot of pressure on them.
But like, have you not seen progress? Like, I've seen progress in the city. Like, what?
I mean, y'all seen
What
progress.
progress?
I'm not gonna say it's
No.
no
Have you not
progress,
seen?
but
I
I
haven't
don't
seen
think
it.
it's
Zero.
enough.
I
It's not
haven't seen
enough.
it. It's
Zero.
not- it's so little
Minuscule.
that it's unnoticeable. You know, It's just like
in our era, we can talk about all the stuff of the past all day, but what can you noticeably say in your lifetime in the past, like let's just say 17 years, that you can say really social justice really changed for you?
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's so small.
I
that
think
it's
the
unnoticeable.
game has changed from social justice. We gotta switch our game up too.
That's what I'm like,
We
we
gotta
got-
go to economics.
Yeah.
And that proving the point. Like we got to go to. We are in economics. I see more individual entrepreneurs taking it upon themselves. Like, hey, this is what I got to do.
Right.
And with that, being able to control political powers and being full on in political. Being within, acting
agree.
within the political party. So they're
I agree.
a whole lot more active and controlling now. So this year I've seen a whole lot slew of more black politicians, and to even try and be one, they're in high positions within society.
But
I see
I'm
a
gonna
whole
put it
lot
like
more
this.
judges, a whole lot more police officers. I see a whole lot more black teachers, what have you. Still not enough, but I see a whole lot more.
But I ask you this though. I put it like this because even people that pay attention like us, in the next election, I heard that there's gonna be over 70 something different ballot people to choose from. That's over like 150 something people on the ballot.
Right.
So how do you make an informed decision between the people? Even the people in politics don't know all them people.
Where's that application, buddy? Where's that application to explain that?
What? What you talking about? Oh, the application.
Yeah,
Explain.
where
Oh,
that-
I
where that
am.
explain
Oh,
that,
it's being created as
Sound
we
like
speak.
a
For
problem that
sure.
needs solved.
Oh, I am. But you know, it's gonna be solved for sure. That's
Either
what we're
way,
gonna be doing. I'm talking about the
people are supposed to make their own informed decisions. And how do you get informed? You got to go and search out and gain that information. So
Sure.
it's actually upon every individual to do that. You're supposed to do that as a citizen. This is going way back to what both Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois
They were
was
picking between
preaching.
70 people though.
No, they
And
weren't.
back in the day, that would have even been worse because you ain't got the internet.
True. You got to really go out there and search. Right? And word of mouth was real. Like, you know so-and-so? What are you about?
It was real both ways,
So-
bad and good.
Right. So even like, all right, going back to the like the switch, like even during that time when I guess right before FDR got elected, there was Al Smith who was running for president. Right, he was a Democrat. Right, this is kind of the end of the racist days, what have you.
Yeah, supposedly.
Like they had hardly broke stride from their traditional reliance of anti-black appeals and their reliable anti-black constituency. So everybody by racist. But he decided, because you know Democrats at the time was getting their butt kicked by the Republicans, he reached out to good old, because W.B. Du Bois was the founder of NAACP. So he didn't reach out to him. He reached out to Walter White, that president of the NAACP during that time. So you know Walter White, I always heard about him. There was
I never
Dove,
did any real research on
research
it, to be
into
honest.
it, but you know he's NAACP president. So back in those days, like last week we were talking about what did they do, what do they do now, but back then, yeah, they did some real stuff in terms of publications and
Right.
getting that information out to the people.
Right,
So
right.
they had that magazine or that paper constantly giving it out to people, staying in communication with the people.
Right.
Right. So he was the first time to reach out to Walter White, especially after the Republicans are pretty much, you know, kicking everybody out.
Out there,
Right. So now this was a welcome in, reach in. So that's what kind of, you know, that pissed off a whole lot of white people, forcing those white people into the Republican Party and welcoming more into the Democratic. So here we are.
One thing I want to say, if you want people to
Today.
switch in bulk, I ain't gonna lie, you piss some white people off, they will switch on your ass
Mm.
quick. Parties, whole nation. You be like, dang. We seen that with Trump. Them boys, hey,
And
I
that's-
gonna tell
you
you,
saying
this
that's
is gonna
because
go
of-
in there and do it.
Because of Barack. You think that's because of in retaliation?
Oh, for sure. What they call it, the white lash.
Boy,
I mean,
so
it's-
what,
I mean, I think it's all type of stuff that can definitely happen, but we can get right back into this. We're gonna take a quick little break here, and then we'll get back into does your vote really matter?
It's brand
We'll
new,
talk
dog.
about local versus national elections.